Imagine opening your eyes to a reality everyone else refuses to see. You are awake, while those around you sleepwalk. In a small Indian village, the morning began with the ringing of temple bells. People bowed their heads and folded their hands in a display of devotion. Yet when those worshippers stepped over the temple threshold, they walked right past destitute, starving children. The devotion they showed to stone statues vanished when faced with human suffering. A young boy named Niranjan sat quietly and watched. While other children played, he observed the divide between what the villagers prayed for and how they actually behaved. When rituals lack human empathy, they create a comforting illusion. People feel righteous while ignoring the pain at their own feet. The tension in the village peaked when a loud, imposing sadhu arrived. He demanded donations and fasts in exchange for salvation. But when a hungry child begged for food, the sadhu brushed him away, blaming the child's suffering on his past karma. Niranjan stood before him and asked why religion exists if it fails to cultivate basic mercy. The crowd laughed, but the village unders grew tense. They viewed the boy's logic as a threat to the established hierarchy. The elders convened a panchayat, a traditional village council of elders that acts as a local court. The headman demanded why Niranjan disrupted their traditions. The boy replied he could not live a lie. Refusing to stay quiet, he was permanently banished. In a community that relies on collective silence, stating a fact is treated as an act of treason. For days, Niranjan slept by rivers and worked in distant fields for scraps of food. The righteous anger that fueled his confrontation slowly burned out, leaving him hollow. At the base of a mountain, he crossed paths with an older saint. This man wore plain clothes and carried no prayer beads, radiating a steady peace that the village sadhu lacked. Niranjan defended his actions to the man, insisting his exile was unjust because his observations of the village were factually accurate. The saint asked a question that shifted Niranjan's perspective. This diagram shows the overlap between an ego-driven argument and compassionate awakening. Are you fighting to wake others up or simply fighting to win? Exposing lies is useless if driven by pride. To live the truth, one must dismantle the need to be right. Sitting beside the saint, Niranjan realized that renunciation involves letting go of personal anger. He saw that worship is found in the act of feeding those who are hungry. Righteous anger can be factually correct, but it still functions as a trap. It hardens the ego, preventing the spiritual growth the rebel claims to seek. Years later, a much older Niranjan walked back into his home village. The abrasive energy of his youth was gone, replaced by a deep, steady calm. He sat under a tree and invited the children over. He taught them to question things fearlessly, speaking with a quiet dignity. One afternoon, the headman who had exiled Niranjan stepped out of the temple. He stopped when he encountered a starving beggar child sitting in his path. The headman looked over at Niranjan sitting in the distance. With trembling hands, the village leader gave his own meal to the child. Living the truth with compassion exerts an invisible pressure on a community. It has the power to sway others more effectively than shouting facts. Following that gesture, a shift occurred in the village's daily routine. Food distribution became a regular occurrence outside the temple doors, addressing the very hunger Niranjan had pointed out years before. This pattern is often referred to as the paradox of the outcast. This diagram shows the 3 stages of the cycle. First, a truth teller is rejected by their society. Second, they evolve in isolation. Third, they return to offer a way to heal the group. When an uncomfortable reality is first presented, it is often met with hostility. Over time, as the evidence of its necessity grows, it can become the new baseline for how a community functions. Spiritual rebellion can be quiet. Niranjan returned from the wilderness to offer the village a different way to live, ultimately saving its soul.